Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Progeny Podcast. Today I am joined by Asad Hamir. Asad is a father of two and he comes from the Khoja Shia community. Asad is a tech and wellness entrepreneur who runs an investment portfolio called Motherboard. Motherboard starts, operates, and invests in brands in the technology and wellness space. The group employs 130 people in the UK and operates under the ethos of improving our everyday experience with our technology. He has recently appeared on Dragon's Den, where he received investment from two dragons for one of his portfolio businesses, Ocushield. Assalamu alaikum, Asad. Thank you for coming.
Alaikum salam. Real pleasure to be here.
Some people might recognize you from Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
How was that? How did you get onto Dragon's Den?
Hi, Dragons.
My name's Dhruvan Patel.
My name's Asad Hamir. We're here today because we're seeking £75,000 in exchange for 5% equity in our business. So the founder basically was nagging me for like 2 years, like saying we should go on there. It's great for recognition and stuff like that. And I never felt we were quite ready. But the business started to really move fast during the pandemic because Ocushield's a blue light wellness eye health brand. And as it started to move quickly, he then came back and said, we should really look at it this year.
Yeah.
It's a good time to do it. And actually, they reached out to us.
Wow.
And yeah, we were like, okay, let's go for it. And you go through the process with BBC and stuff, which takes a few months. But yeah, luckily we were on there in September 2020.
So during COVID?
During COVID, yeah.
Okay. And did you actually film that during...
Yeah, so we filmed it September 20. There wasn't any lockdowns, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we went up to, it's in Manchester. Yeah, you go up, and before that you have 2 or 3 rounds of like auditions. You do like a video audition. Basically, they're testing. Are you credible?
Yeah.
Are you good on camera? You know, is there a story here? And they obviously, if you look at the program, there's the ones which are jokes, and then the ones that get investments, right?
Yeah.
And I think we were probably in the category of investments.
What did you present to them?
So we presented the Ocushield business as a growth story. So we were doing, you know, in that year we did about 600 grand the prior year turnover. And
Amazing.
Then the year we were going into, when we went to present, we were on track to do 1.8 million. So there's a real growth story in the brand, and obviously blue light as a is something which affects your eyes, comes from your screens. So any digital device, your phones, your MacBooks, as they've got brighter and more powerful, they emit more and more of this thing called blue light.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very relevant topic, because blue light is something that's talked about in skincare. It's talked in various different wellness categories.
Mm-hmm.
And as people were using their tech more and more, and as our lives had become more technology infused, people were looking for things which could improve their relationship with their tech. So blue light, and hence the category really took off. So we presented the business, and yeah, luckily we went in looking at Tej and Peter Jones as our 2 main kind of targets.
Why?
So Tej is a wellness entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and
Vitibiotics. Yeah.
And if you look at the story, you know, it's amazing story that he's got, you know, himself and the family, and come from East Africa as well. So, as you know, the Khoja community and stuff.
Okay.
And then Peter, actually, one of the reasons why he's telecoms and tech, and it's one of the reasons why I went into the telecoms industry, actually, because I read his book.
Wow.
Back in, I think it was 2005. Read his book. So to read his book and then going on there, and obviously my first business was in telecoms. Okay. So I knew him. I've met him at different award ceremonies and things like that. So if we could get those 2 guys, Ocushield kind of occupies 2 worlds. It's wellness and healthcare, but it's also a screen protector which goes onto your phone, or a filter that goes onto your MacBook. So it's kind of fusing health tech almost, so fusing the healthcare world and the technology world. So we thought if we could get those 2, then that'd be amazing.
And they both jumped on.
They both jumped on, yeah. So we were in there for an hour and a half.
Wow.
So
We only see like 10 minutes of that.
Yeah. So we got there night before. They said, we don't know what time you're going to be on, so you have to literally just wait. They give you a dressing room and stuff. And so you're just waiting. And I think it was about 3-4 o'clock until we finally got on. And apparently they had a couple of bad pitches before that.
So they were waiting for something good.
So they were in a bad mood.
Oh, okay.
So, and we came on, and I think, you know, me and Driven really, who's the founder, we really rehearsed very well. So when we came on, I think we did quite well.
And they both gave you what the deal that you guys wanted to go for? Or?
So we went in wanting 75k for 5%.
Okay.
Are
you a good negotiator?
I think so,
Okay.
but I was actually reflecting on it as you do right after,
Yeah.
and we got an okay deal.
Okay.
We got 75k for 15%.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, but you know, you obviously look back on it and go, right, I could have done better and whatever. But we didn't actually go in for the money. So we went in for the marketing.
Of course.
And
Probably
probably
75k isn't that much, knowing that you said you're close to 1.8 million.
yeah, but it's more 90% of the businesses that go on there, is probably not a fact many people know, actually don't go through with the investment. So there's no legal obligation for you to go through with the investment.
Okay, obviously, because you're not just
It's different to the Shark Tank equivalent in the US,
Okay.
where there is a legal obligation.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the Dragons Den BBC, being a national institution, I guess they probably don't want to tie people in. Yeah, so you go on there, there's no legal obligation. We thought, look, if we got the 75k for 5% and it did make sense and we felt a good feeling with the two Dragons and their teams, then maybe we'd consider it. We didn't quite get the deal, and we gave them the benefit of the doubt. So we went through the process, and we just didn't feel it was quite right for us as a business. And the business had grown a lot as well through that process. So in the end, we turned them down. And we actually went and we just recently raised for the business at 6 million valuation. We've just raised £1 million.
Wow.
So yeah, I think it was the right call.
It was the right call, definitely, from 75.
And we're still friends with their family offices and stuff like that. And they've told us, look, when you go through your next fundraise, so that's another good thing about going through a process like that, the network that it opens up and stuff like that as well.
I mean, alhamdulillah, I got to know you through a friend who introduced me to yourself and said, you know, Asad will be amazing on this podcast.
On the podcast as well.
Yeah, Zahid, this is your recommendation. So this is for you. Share it to everyone in the Khoja community, inshallah. But a lot of people now, I feel, are maybe thinking about that route, about being an entrepreneur, starting up your own business.
Yeah,
but I'm sure, you know, you didn't. There's a journey to all of this, and
for sure.
From what I know, you studied optometry at university.
Yeah,
and
quite different.
Yeah, and your family are all optometrists.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, so there's 45 of us.
MashaAllah.
So my mum, my sister,
45.
My missus, first cousins, literally all first cousins as well.
Okay, and 45 in the UK.
In the UK,
MashaAllah, that's amazing.
I don't know about the ones abroad.
Okay,
I'm sure
just in the UK, there's 45.
Yeah,
MashaAllah, and that's what you did as well.
Correct. Yeah. So my family, when they came from East Africa, came from Uganda, my mum had a degree in optometry, and the family saw it as a good opportunity to open a business. Because at that time, you know, I'm sure you've heard the stories. There was the signs of, you know, no blacks, no Asians, no dogs. You know, difficult to get jobs. So the route was entrepreneurship, so business. And they opened a chain of opticians. So I think at the peak they had 3 or 4. It was great for the family. No one really made loads of money, but what it did is it got the whole family through education. They all did optometry, and so I guess growing up in the business and seeing that as my ecosystem around me, my father actually encouraged me to go down that route. But he was actually an electrical engineer. Okay. So we would always have technology in the house. So, you know, whether it's, you know, desktops, we'd be coming home, repairing it. He'd be opening it up. And I used to love seeing the inside of, you know, a motherboard and, you know,
where the name comes from.
Which is where the name comes from.
Wow.
So it's seeing the inside of a computer and all that kind of stuff. And that got me hooked on tech. And then, like, you know, from there, I just loved tech as well. But, you know, at the same time, you know, career path and all that, I felt that I should listen to my father, go down the optometry route. And it was definitely a good degree to do, actually.
And you practiced as well?
Yes, I practiced for about 18 months. I didn't enjoy it. And I told my father I didn't enjoy it. And what happened was the iPhone launched. Actually, my third year university. So Steve Jobs got up on stage and says, "Here's iPhone." And it wasn't until about 6 or 7 months later, but I could tell at that point. Well, firstly, I could tell that I loved it. But second, you could see that this is a huge opportunity.
Are you an iPhone person, by the way?
I'm always an iPhone person. I have dilly-dallied onto Samsungs and stuff like that, but I always come back.
Come back to it. And then 18 months in, you thought...
Yeah, so 18 months in, O2 had the exclusivity for the iPhone. And it was actually funny because in Stanmore, Jamaat, O2 was the only mobile phone network that worked. And there was no other mobile phone network where you could get coverage.
Except O2.
Except O2. And
there's some deal happening there.
So the stars were aligning here. And my thoughts were like, I could, and I saw the commercial model. And that time, mobile was a really lucrative industry. So I thought, I could open a business here. I was 22, 23 when I started. And that was my first kind of venture. And I remember, it's funny you say now people are thinking about entrepreneurship, and it's something that actually, a lot of people may be considering first, even coming out of university and things like that. Back then, people looked at me and they said, "You're stupid. Like, you got a degree. Why are you going to business?" And I was one of very few of my friends that actually were even thinking about it. So it's funny how times have changed so much since then. And actually that ecosystem around then, I had nothing in terms of, books to read or YouTube videos to watch or, anything like that. So a lot of the early years was just, mistakes, learnings, getting stuck in. But yeah, that's where it all started.
And then you went into having mobile shops.
Yeah, so we had a chain of O2 franchises. So we had it got up to about 16 O2 franchises. So I still have that business today. And we got up to, I think, about 170,000 customers. O2 actually really trusted us as a business then, and we started to diversify the business with O2. So then we went into B2B and a few other areas with O2. And we, it's still today, it's a key part of my portfolio because it opens up my network to lots of different people. And whilst we've diversified the portfolio now into other areas, and we both operate other businesses and we invest in other brands, the mobile business is still very close to my heart.
You mentioned something that people thought, wow, you're leaving your degree, or not degree, you've got a degree and you're going into business, and they thought that's something that's not normal.
Yeah.
Now I feel some aren't even thinking about getting a degree. So before they even reach that stage, they're talking about starting up a business.
Correct.
And some I know will say, no, make sure you get that degree. And then I don't know, sometimes they'll say something to fall back on if if it doesn't work up with your business. How do you draw the balance? How do you know, no, I want to start a business, or I should get a degree? What would your advice be?
I think you got to get those life skills. I was thrown in the deep end with the business, but having gone through university, you do get to meet lots of different cultures. The course gave me something to fall back on if anything was to go wrong. Business is no joke, right? It's full of risk. And I've had a failed business as well, and it's easy to fail actually. And nowadays also, it's almost in social media and YouTube, it's kind of encouraged you should fail. Mistakes and failure is a key part of the process, which is always talked about. But the reality of it is when you do fail, money, all that stuff becomes more challenging, right? And luckily I had something to fall back on in terms of I built a bit of an infrastructure, even though I failed in this other business. So I think it's really, really important for you to think about a degree which gives you an alternative career path, just in case. If you are going down the entrepreneurship route, you've got something to fall back on. And even today, as an optometrist, you can still, God forbid, if any, I didn't want to continue with my businesses, I could go and continue being an optometrist and earn, a good wage living in London. So I think it's super important.
Looking at your growth, how important do you think it is to continue learning and keep yourself learning, because you've gone into different sort of fields?
Yeah, definitely. So if I look at, optometrist and then into telecoms and tech, and I had that, I guess the desire for the industry, but the learning from a business point of view has only come through doing. So my answer to this would be twofold. So I think it's really important, obviously, to keep learning,
Of course.
but the learning, it has to balance between the literature and watching videos and whatever to actually doing. And you have to go through those mistakes. You have to go through, it's right, you know, what you hear about, you know, you have to go through those mistakes to learn from them, and you'll never make those mistakes again. But it is a constant learning process, entrepreneurship. There is no single book you're going to be able to read, or a single video you're going to be able to watch. I think the biggest learning, you know, Mike Tyson says, you know, I can't remember the exact phrase, but until you get punched in the face, you know, you don't know what's going on. And I think it's so true about business. Like, you know, and as an entrepreneur or as a business person, you always think you know it all, but actually you don't know anything. I think that's the other thing about learning is don't be afraid to reach out to other people and learn from their experiences, because there's always someone that's been there and done it before you have. And if you're worried about, you know, it's a common thing in our community, for example, I'm worried about my business idea being stolen, or, you know, whatever it is. If it gets stolen, it's not good enough a business idea, or your execution strategy wasn't good enough.
Okay, interesting.
You have to be open to that. If you are really behind your business idea, then only you will make it as good as it will be, not the guy who's going to steal it. And we've had examples of where we've, you know, shared the business and it's, you know, ideas have been stolen. It's part and parcel of the process. But, you know, so definitely, you know, gone round and round in circles there.
No,
But learning is all different angles, and it's all just, you know, in everything. I'd say every single day I'm learning. So if I, you know, give you an example, I need an influencer agency or something like that. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm not going to go on Google. I'm going to go into my network. And I'm going to ask, you know, who knows, who's the best influencer agency, you know, for this brand? Who should we work with? That's all learning as well, right? Because it's all network.
You've mentioned network quite a few times,
Mm.
and you've said that, you know, you kept maybe O2 because of the networks that you've built while at O2. How important is it in your business to have a good network, and how can someone, you know, have a good network? How do you know, what's the best way to get a good network in?
So network is everything. You know, what's the phrase? Your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
And a network is not measured by your followers on Instagram or your LinkedIn followers or anything like that. It's built through relationships that you're going to have with people, and time you're going to spend with them, and emotional connections you're going to build with them. You know, that's your network, because that's when the chips are down, you can fall back on people, not just when the chips are up. And that's also where you learn a lot about your network. It's like similar to your friend circle, right? But I think, you know, all the, you know, personally now I'm finding the more I'm doing as well, the more your network grows. And that is the power of social media, that, you know, the more you put out, the more your network can grow. And your network, you got to evaluate why you're putting things out, what your purpose is, not just to, you know, share your story on whatever, why you're doing it, you know, what's the reason you're putting it out? Is it to attract more customers? Is it to, you know, bring on more suppliers, to attract people you're going to invest in, whatever those things are. So you got to be also focused with your network as well. It's, you know, you got to think about what types of people you want to connect with.
Do you think, you know, from our community, specifically, you're from a Khoja background, are you seeing more people in the community wanting to take that route?
I think definitely more people wanting to. I'm seeing less actually making it into the tech world or the design world, or, you know, into those worlds where you see them having raised a funding round, or, you know, having exited a business, or, you know, things like that, compared to, I don't know, the Gujarati community, or, you know, other communities, which I feel, you know, even the Afro-Caribbean and the Black community through the BLM movement are thriving in entrepreneurship right now. There are so many great examples of Black founders who have raised significant amounts of money or have exited businesses. So I think there's a lot more that can be done and should be done. And a big part of it, you know, I was reflecting about that coming in here today. I think the all the things I've done is just been through putting myself into these situations, learning, trying, doing, failing, trying again, being somewhere, being in a networking event, being at a training event, investing in those things, putting myself into those circles, which opens my mind to areas which I didn't know about. I didn't know there was that opportunity there. Right, let me try that. And I do think as Shias, as Muslims, we think different to other people. So we have other advantages amongst our peers in other cultures, whether it's our spiritualism, our single-mindedness like that, or whether it's, our community. And I'll give you an example of this. I built my O2 business through the Stanmore community. I probably sold 4,000 phones in the first year, which, basically built my business.
Most to the community members.
Yeah, and that's a huge advantage that we have as people in our culture, because we are very community-led, right? We're all connected, and that's the power of tapping into that community. As a 22, 23-year-old, I wasn't, that well known or connected within the community, but I knew that Stanmore had, O2 was the only network that worked, right? And I knew that if I just put up adverts and I start, selling to one uncle and auntie and whoever and gave them good service, the news would spread, and it did. So I think that's a real, and I know Hassan came on this show, Hassan Kuba, a while back. Unfair advantage, right? That we have as a community, or as people from our cultures, is our community.
I should get both of you on one podcast. I think that would be amazing. You also mentor several businesses. Is that sort of your way of maybe giving back to your community as well?
So twofold. So I do mentor as my pipeline for people that I then invest in. So Ocushield, for example, was a business that I mentored initially. Then I invested, and now we've done a fundraise, and now we're going on that path towards, building that, growing it, and exiting it one day. And I've got 2 or 3 other investments, and we've got a pipeline of other ones that we're looking at.
Amazing.
Then I do mentor within my community where I don't have such a commercial lens at things. And that's purely from a point of view of I actually just want more of us in these worlds, getting people to think differently from a young age as well. Like, I used to teach in madrasa, and I probably wasn't the best madrasa teacher from a
we'll have to ask your students
or whatever class point of view, but I'd always get them to run entrepreneurship style exercises and things like that, just getting their minds thinking differently at age of 14, 13, 15, whatever it is. So
you chose Motherboard as the name.
Yes.
Amazing name. How did that come about? How did the whole...
So the name obviously came from my father, and the history with that. And I've always been fascinated by chips and all that stuff, and for me it was the Mothership brand, for me. And it's, if you think of a motherboard, it powers everything. Without the motherboard, it doesn't matter how good your CPU is or how good your graphics card is, nothing works. Right? So that was my thinking around it, that I wanted to build an ecosystem of brands, and I knew that I couldn't just do it on my own. I have to invest in founders. I want to invest in founders who have the right mindset to create powerful brands. But the process will happen by accident, to be honest. So I didn't intend on creating this portfolio. It just happened that I did a talk at City University, which then unearthed Driven, with Arif, who's the Click business. With him, it was just quite an organic process. And so in the end, once we'd done 2, 3 of them, I was like, oh my God, I got a portfolio here. So then, we started to think about things. And that's the thing also about business as well. Don't overthink it. It's an organic process. It just happens. These things will happen, right? So there's no point trying to build a, super complex strategy and overthink everything. You just got to do and, pray that it works out.
Works out. Again, this is, you said earlier on that it's different. the fact that you were Muslim Shias plays into what you do. How much do you think, or how important do you think religion is with the work that you do?
I think it's vital. I think it keeps you so grounded. So I'll give you an example of this, and it's a story I don't share often, but I'll share it on this podcast. One of the reasons why I think the business that failed that I was involved with was my co-founders wanted to put alcohol inside a particular store that we had, and it didn't fit with my values, but I was a minority shareholder in the business, so I couldn't oppose it. I would get outvoted. So I had to, in the end, like, it just didn't feel right, even though commercially, I could make money,
yeah,
right? But it didn't feel right. And when it doesn't feel right and you're conflicted, and that conflictedness has come from years in madrasa, or, days and days in Stanmore, and, being part of the community, and, people instilling the Ahlul Bayt into you. That's why I felt conflicted. And that's why, I felt that I couldn't be involved in that business anymore, and I actually started to step away from it. And I walked away from millions of pounds, literally millions of pounds, 2 to 3 million pounds. But I couldn't be involved in that business because that would have an impact on me, my soul. But once you start to go down that route, it's a very slippery slope. And then my family, and I was 30 years old, 30, 31 years old.
I thought you look 30 now.
MashaAllah. No, 37. Yeah, so I think it's super important because it really helps you be grounded. You don't need to go down these routes to make money, you can make money in lots of different ways. You can be proud of your culture, proud of your religion. People feel afraid to show their religion and culture.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, because people are very respectful these days.
It's actually I think it makes you a point of strength.
Absolutely.
The fact that you have certain values that you go by.
Absolutely.
And principles. So if anything, it's to your advantage.
Yeah, and I think also you praying, spiritualism, other cultures where don't have what we have, they're searching for it. They're doing their 5 a.m. wake ups, their mindfulness, their yoga retreats, all that stuff. And all that stuff is great. We can still do all that
Of
stuff
course,
as well, right?
Yeah.
But the yin and yang we have, it's so powerful. The how you feel when you wake up in the morning and you've missed your subuh versus when you've actually prayed it, and how you can perform.
Amazing.
In business, I can see it in my own performance day in, day out. So it's so powerful.
It's easier said than done. I wouldn't know what. Again, I'd hope that if I'm in a position where knowing that there's a deal on the table, and if I go into that deal, I could make millions. But at the same time, I could be doing something that's against my faith and against my values that I've been taught from a young age. I'm hoping I'd walk away. But being placed in that situation, it's different than actually saying, yes, I'd walk away.
Absolutely.
How does one, in all your deals that you do and all the business that you do, make sure that you don't let yourself do something that isn't part of your faith and your belief?
So I think I always surround myself with the right people. I think that's super important. And that's both in my business and outside my business. And when I'm recruiting people, I'm also recruiting for values.
Amazing.
They don't need to have the same culture as me. They don't need to come from Stanmore or whatever. But they have to have the same values. And that's super important. And if I can surround myself with those people, then I'll make the right decisions. And of course, there are some always cultural differences between those people and things like that. But then that's where your mentor network comes in. That's when, making connections and having people from whether it's from STAM or other communities that we have who have been in business. I always have people that I always go and ask for help from, and brainstorm or sense check things. So I think it's a combination. So both recruiting for values and also having a support network around you.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Having the right people around you.
Yeah.
Choosing even your right friends, having family support,
Absolutely.
and having a strong partner, a wise partner, someone that's going to support you is important. Family to you is important.
Absolutely.
In your
Absolutely.
father of two, mashallah.
Yeah.
How are you? How old are your kids?
So they're 12 and 9.
Mashallah.
Yeah. And that's actually an interesting point, because wanting to raise them in the environment, and ultimately why I'm doing this is for them, right?
Amazing.
The business is for them. And eventually I was talking to my son today. He was saying, in 12 years, you're coming to work in the business. I was saying 18 you're going uni, and 12 years you're going into the business. So it's like, yeah. It's like,
He's on it.
yeah, it's like, what do you want to do? And it says, I want to make products. So I was like, okay, cool. So what kind of products anyway? But yeah.
You're not giving away any of his ideas now.
No. But it's for them we're doing this, and therefore the business that you build has to be the right fit for them, because you keep them in this right circle.
Correct.
Because otherwise, and it's so much harder. It's harder these days than it was back when we were growing up, right? Like, we didn't have all this. I mean, we had ICQ and we're just starting, and MSN Messenger was starting, and stuff like that. But they were just exposed to so much, right? So so I think for them, and the support from your parents, missus, everyone, I think, of course, those people are so important. They keep you grounded as well.
Why did you choose to invest in technology and wellness? Technology, okay, you mentioned, but why only those two brands do you want to invest in?
So I love tech. I just think technology, if you think of, and I still remember when we were selling iPhones, I remember our demonstration was in 2009. We'd say, right, we're going to call Starbucks in New York, right? And you watch this. The lady in Starbucks, this poor lady must have got so many calls from us, but we would demo that through the Apple Maps, and we'd call this Starbucks, and it would just blow people's minds how technology, or the iPhone at the time, was totally changing the world. And it's the same, I guess, that innovation is what drives me, wanting to do things which make things better, and that's very much at the heart of the Motherboard ethos. Innovation, trying to make things better, especially through design, is something that I'm very passionate about. And then from a wellness point of view, I think this has come about in the last 3-4 years, because our relationship with our technology has changed so much. We're surrounded by it over here, but it's in our lives every single day. And our minds, our bodies have not caught up with the evolutionary change that's happened as a result of that. And whether it's that or the algorithms that are plugged into Instagram or Facebook, how it keeps you plugged into the system like a jackpot, or one of those slot machines, in a casino, you're constantly hooked in. And so therefore our relationship to maximize what we can do with technology is an area of real interest for me from a wellness point of view. So beyond the commercial opportunities, I just have an interest in these areas, and I think that's really important in business. You gotta enjoy these areas. You gotta be actually really interested in them.
So if someone is starting, a business, do they have to actually have the passion for what they're going into, or could they say, I'm just picking this because I know it will make me money?
I think you need to have some sort of passion or experience in that sector. You don't need to be necessarily super excited about, I don't know, let's say the optometry sector. I was never the best optometrist, but could I run an optician's business? Yes, I could, because I enjoy the business side of things, and I enjoy the service, and I enjoy retail. So you've got to have something that you enjoy, otherwise it's gonna be painful, right? So I think you've got to have a passion, not necessarily just in the sector, but of whatever how you're serving customers, how you.
Otherwise, you're going to feel bored.
you're going to get bored. Money can't be the only driver. Of course, money is is important, but it's the byproduct of the process that you go through. So I think one way or another, you got to have that passion.
Have you delved into anything to do with the crypto space? And what do you think of all?
So I'll tell you a story. So I invested back, when was it? 2.5, 3 years ago, into Ripple.
Okay.
And I invested about £10,000, and £10,000 turned into £100,000 in 2 months. I went on holiday. I didn't check it for a week. Looked at it after a week. 100,000 dropped down to 40,000. And after that, I said, I'm never investing in something I don't understand. I got the money out, so I still made 10K. But generally, I don't understand it, if I'm honest.
Okay.
And whilst I believe some of these things are going to be the future of how we do banking or any of those things, they're still very much in their infancy. And I believe at the moment you can't justify investments other than bets, really, and driving and investing, hoping that there is a forward growth because of just the market and the hype and all those things. That's the same things with NFTs, and they're so early as a technology. But actually, I went to a talk in something called Singularity University, and if anyone's listening, please do look it up.
Okay.
It's hosted by a guy called Peter Diamandis, and Peter Diamandis is a guy who believes in things like mining asteroids for various things, diamonds and all kinds of stuff, and he has various companies that are very futuristic. But he brings in the best thinkers in the world to talk about future trends. And this was 6 or 7 years ago. They were talking about Bitcoin, and at that time I was like, and I still remember Bitcoin was like $100 or something like that, at that point. So damn it. but that's the thing, right? It's there's always going to be those moments in life where you're going to have missed out on investments and whatever. But I always say, look, do things that you understand. If you don't understand it, something interests, go and understand it.
You haven't thought about actually trying to understand it, maybe, or everyone around me is talking about NFTs and crypto. I don't understand any of it.
And that kind of opens up a very interesting line of dialogue that your biggest commodity in entrepreneurship that you have is time. You could do anything, right? Like, I could, with the experience I've got now in e-commerce or retail, can go and do anything, right? Could open lots of different types of businesses, and I always get approached. But I have a single-minded focus, and that's telecoms and tech. And that's all I want to do. And I just want to enjoy it. I want to make enough money. And I want to help other people now as well. What I really enjoy now is taking people like Druvin and Arif and all those guys on journeys where, I can lend my experience or my network or whatever it is. So, yes, of course, there are lots of exciting things you can do, but time is the most important thing. And I want to have lots of time with my family as well. So there's that balance. So I'll continue enjoying reading about the sector, but
how do you have that balance? By the way, you have 130 people that work for you in Motherboard, employs 130 people, and family, kids.
Yeah.
I don't know what your hours are like. Yeah. Actually, what are your hours like?
So in the first 10 years, my balance was really bad. If I'm honest, I've not been there enough with my youngest kids in the early years, despite numerous times people telling me you're going to miss it. You should be there.
Mr. Hamir,
he
was there.
Yeah, exactly. So in my early years, as I was building, not enough time. And of course, in business, in those early phases, you've got to put the time in. And you've got to have a real good understanding with your partner and your family and everything. Now I have the ability to buy that time. So I've brought in enough people. I bring in the right experience, bring in people that are better than me. Because I'm not the best of what I do. There are much more talented people out there than me. I'm just the vision. So I moved into the CEO role. I'm the vision. Execution is up to everyone else now. So I don't need to get involved in that. And that gives me lots of time. So Monday, Tuesdays, lots of meetings with people. And those days are normally 9 a.m. start and 7.
You wake up early.
No, I'm terrible at waking
Oh,
up
are
early.
you?
And I'm always late for a 9 a.m. meeting.
Okay.
So everyone
You are
knows.
on time for this podcast. So
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you told me a little bit after 6:30. So I was like, okay, so let me get there 6:34. So 9 a.m. start Monday to Tuesday till 6, 7. Mostly meetings with my teams, agencies, setting them up for the week. Wednesday to Friday, I just keep myself free and don't really have much on other than a couple of meetings here and there, but lots more thinking time.
Amazing.
And then I can just jump into things and annoy people and find out what's going on and,
Okay. Just
plan.
make sure everything's getting done.
Yeah. So Wednesday to Friday, lots of time. And then I make sure that I get my exercise in and all those things. So
Amazing. Yeah.
I'm trying to commit myself to doing 15 kilometers a week in running.
A week.
Yeah.
You should be doing more than that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, you should be doing more than that. For a moment, I thought you said a day, and I thought that's too much. 3 to 5 a day, I think.
Yeah. So, but running. So I'm running on.
Oh, you're running.
Running. Yeah.
Running. Okay, I thought you were saying steps.
No. So
Okay,
that's
amazing.
on top of my daily steps. And
Okay.
everything.
On top of that, you're doing 50. Okay. That's
15K.
okay.
So that's so 5K on the treadmill.
Amazing.
Today I did 4. It was really bad. So yeah.
4 in how long?
In 26 minutes.
Amazing. It's quite good.
Yeah, it's not bad. And that's the other thing. Like, it's not a sprint business, and you got to enjoy it, right? And if you're going to enjoy it, you have to keep yourself healthy. Entrepreneurship has the highest death rate early death rate as a category of jobs and things like that than any other category of jobs. And one of the big reasons is people don't take care of themselves.
Because they're so busy, focused on their work.
So that's another thing, I've learned that, getting on a bit now, right? So I need to make sure that I take care of myself. Healthy eating, our diet, if you've been to our mosque, it's not the best, right?
Yeah. The curries that we get served and the biryanis.
Yes.
Even though we love them. If there's no biryani, we're not going.
Yeah, exactly. So diet, exercise, all that stuff I think is super important now as well.
I think it's
and
everyone,
holidays, actually.
Of course. I think when everyone gets close to that 40 number, they start thinking about diet, exercise, health. And I think, of course, they're important, just like we have, we spoke about your spiritual level. You have to obviously stay fit. And it's amazing that you've divided your time now where, Wednesday to Friday.
Yeah.
I think that's quite important because it's just time is your balance. It's the balance between that. You spoke about fundraising for
Ocushield. Yeah. We're just fundraising for Click now as well. So we're just going through a round now.
So if someone's got, a startup and he's thinking about what's the best way forward with that?
So there's 2 routes you can take with fundraising. Okay. So the first route is you have an idea, and you haven't really got that much revenue. Okay. My personal preference is that if you are in that position, then go and prove it first. Try and hustle with your friends and family and whoever, and try and prove the model. Then go and try and raise money, because otherwise you're going to get diluted too early. So if you think of like for example, the Ocushield business, we could have raised at 200,000 when we're doing £200,000, and a business like that would have been valued at £1 million, normally 3 to 5 times revenue. Maybe $1 million if we were really stretching it. And if we wanted to raise 100,000, we'd have needed to give away 10%, 200,000, 20%. We dug in, we hustled, we had made no profits or anything from the business. We've just reinvested everything over the last 2 years. Now we've done a funding round at 6 million.
You turned down Dragon's Den.
Yeah. And and we've got £1 million in the bank now to then really turn this into a big brand. And we've only given away about 13% of the business.
Amazing.
So and it depends what your end goal and objective is as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so
You got to hustle at the beginning.
absolutely, and in Ocushield, it's not about making profits right now, and it might sound strange to say, but we're building something which we can then exit later down the line. Okay, so right now it's about building the revenue, because that's what someone's going to buy. Your customer base, your revenue, that's what someone's going to buy, and the affinity for the brand. So that's what we've got to build, and that's what we need the money for. In years 3, 4, maybe, you know, we will make a little bit of cash, you know, maybe a little bit of profit. But if our revenue is at 20, 30 million, then the business is worth a lot of money, and that's what someone's going to invest in. And that brings me on to also the type of investor that you want is someone that's aligned with your objectives. So if your objectives are to generate profits and you just need to get over a small hurdle to get there, then you want an investor that wants those returns as well, because they're going to help you. And they, you know, an investor is not just someone who just sticks money in. There's someone that is a partner, and they're going to help you with your network, or you know, growing your business, opening up new channels, whatever it is.
Alhamdulillah, it's amazing what you've done with Oxyshield. I hope that those that are thinking about going into becoming an entrepreneur can learn from you, and I'm glad that you're also, from what I know, anyone that's come for advice, you're helping them. Alhamdulillah, we've got a few brothers now in our community. You mentioned Hassan.
Yeah.
Azim, shout out, when he was always someone that would, I know, whenever people would go to him, he'd give advice, and yourself. So and there's of course others,
Yeah, for sure.
that you might know, but I want to ask you, if you know, what would you tell yourself today from what you know, maybe 15 years ago? What would you tell Asad 15 years ago? What advice would you give Asad 15 years ago, now that you've been on this journey?
I would say you need to maintain the intensity and the focus. When you're growing a business, it needs that energy and intensity to your work, and you've got to be effervescent, you know, because that's what drives your customers, your everything, your marketing, you know, all that stuff. So I think that's key. And I think from when I started, I was always good at that. But what I also did was I brought in some of the other people at the right times. I think what I would say, though, is stay true to who you are. I think it's really important. And just go for it. I think that's really important. But at the same time, I always say this to people: business is about not taking risks. It's about managing risks. So you've got to have your cash flows, you know, as a business person, you're always the person that's glass half full. So as well as having the numbers and all that, you've got to have the people around you who are maybe a little bit more pessimistic, you know, are telling you, you know, what if it doesn't happen? What are you going to do? And I think that's the final thing I'd say: surround yourself with the right people, learn from them. Don't think you know it all, because you never will.
I'm sure that you know, sometimes people go through, you know, you spoke about energy, and that's what I want to ask about. You know, are there days where, alhamdulillah, maybe not recently, but at the beginning, when you thought, what am I doing? I'm going to give this up.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
For sure. I mean, when I went through the business failure, for example, I was like, you genuinely think, like, am I actually good at this? Yeah. Or am I just telling a lie here? And it's tough, right? Because you go through something so hard, like you lose money, you feel like you let people down, all that kind of stuff. But I think you just gotta, in those situations, you go into a dark place, you just got to get yourself out of it, and just remember and think about the things that brought you to that place. And it's about the small inches. So it's doing the small things, you know, really, really well, and building up again. And that's what I did at that point, was it just slowly built, you know, step by step, and realized that, you know, it was a mistake, and mistakes can happen, and we've learned, and now we've obviously continued.
What do you think the future for yourself is, for Motherboard, for Asad? How do you see yourself in maybe 10, 15 years?
So I'm excited about a few things.
Your 12-year-old, inshallah, will take over.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely something I'm looking forward
Inshallah.
to. So, yeah, I wanna continue growing the portfolio. So investing in some more people, some amazing people. Hopefully, some more from our communities. I want to continue growing other businesses that I'm doing. I'm actually interested in setting up a foundation as well. That's another part of my business that I'm looking to grow and open up, with particular focus on digital and technology and skills, and helping people who maybe don't have access to tech or don't have access to the skills that are needed in today's world. How can we help them? So I'm really keen on that side of things. Yeah, I think also, I've been lucky, right? I've been lucky. I took a risk with the phone store, but it's 22, 23, but I've been lucky in many ways, and you ride your luck, right? And I've learned a lot. So I really do want to do much more of this, and hopefully share much more, and hopefully help other people as much as I can.
Inshallah, may your luck continue.
Yeah.
If someone wants to get in touch, how would they get in touch with Asad?
So
Twitter account or LinkedIn?
Not so good on Twitter,
Okay.
but definitely LinkedIn, Instagram. So LinkedIn is Asad Hamir, and Instagram Asad Hamir as well.
We'll put it on the bottom of the screens, inshallah.
Yeah.
Guys, we'll put that.
Great.
So that's them getting in touch with you. Thank you for making time
pleasure.
for the Progeny. I enjoyed this podcast, and I hope that people can benefit from this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.